Hello, everyone. Really glad to be here with you. First time in Tokyo. Pretty impressive so far. Maybe I'm going to start by introducing a bit of our work, and then I'm going to come back on a few points, and then explain a bit of our projects and how it's linked to our topic today.
When man becomes possessor of the knowledge of himself, he becomes master of his environment.
I don't feel pain anymore. Guess what, baby? I feel free. Woo! Nothing hurts me anymore. Guess what, baby? I feel free. I'm so complete in the mode. Guess what, baby? I feel free. And you know damn well,
he lit me up every time that I fail. It set me free.
You should quit your job to this.
Hold up, let 'em politic. Ooh, one day they hate you, next day they love you. I'm still yelling fuck. I can never trust me. I feel free.
So those are a few of our clients. So we're working in different industries, from culture, entertainment, fashion, luxury, tech a bit. And I mean, it's interesting because we got a lot of different perspective over the years. Also because, because the clicker is dying on me. Yeah. Because we had the chance to work in different countries, different cities. We were born originally in Belgium, in Namur. Super small town, 100,000 people, and for the last 2 years we've been in Chicago as well, and recently Mexico City. A lot of companies struggle to find what is their purpose, apart from just getting money at the end of the day and trying to pay everyone's salary and to get going. There's like this need to find, like people speak about this why. And for us, actually, it came kind of natural at some point to know that we wanted to leave a mark. And you spend more time at work than with your family mostly. You're going to work with clients. You want it to mean something. And this is something we're trying to do through strategy, product, branding, installations. And it's interesting because if now I decide I wanted to come back, I always wanted to blend in. A bit like this kid here, because this is a real picture. We went to school. Wait, because sorry. We went to school on the picture day with this green T-shirt that his mom gave him, and he actually like blended in all the pictures, which is pretty sad for him. And I mean, I spent like years and years trying to fit when I was a kid, like trying to belong, to be like the others, and to, to feel like part of a group. And turns out, a few years after that, I noticed that wasn't important. And actually, it was standing out, which made more sense. We like to use quotes from Maya Angelou, who's a famous poet and writer and activist. And she said at some point that if you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. And it's something we feel is pretty true, especially in our job, in our line of work. Fast forward, a few years after college, I decided to take a job in a design company doing web design, which actually I originally hated. I was supposed to do 3D design, and the market wasn't interesting for HTML back then. It was HTML4, you couldn't do much. But Flash was already there, and there was this crazy level of creativity on everything. Like, people were not assessing 3 times the budget to make sure that this made sense to the company. They were just rolling the dice and doing those crazy websites, which 15 years later are still meaning something for a lot of people. And I think it was really interesting because indeed it led to something else, but it was really kind of a start, like showing that the web had the potential to be something else. Like this website, for example, for those who knew it, from Red Interactive, which is an agency in San Francisco. They had this portfolio where you had a chat room, where you had you could choose a different avatar. You could spend your day basically on this website, which was a portfolio. That doesn't make sense, but that was cool. Just the fact that they thought of doing it, and there was this level of craziness. A few years later, Steve Jobs released a memo. iPad was released saying, "Hey guys, I don't support Flash because it belongs to Adobe. We don't like that. The video formats are not right for us. We feel like it's not secure." So long story short, Flash just died. And then HTML5 came, and possibilities just exploded as well. But sadly, we arrive at a moment where this is the kind of stuff you can see. Not everyone, of course, and obviously not here, but the market still evolves to something which is way more, I would say, usable, but at the same time, reusable, which is a bit sad. Like everyone is doing the same, using the same colors, being influenced by one another, which is good to an extent, but bad to another one. Going further, you have those kind of stuff happening. I don't know if you know which one was the first. Actually, it's Shobani here. Everyone thought it was cool, hey, it's fresh, it's new. And then when it's fresh and it's new, everyone's the same. That became another problem. And now going even further, you have this. You've seen that, I think, in the past, because I think pretty much everyone has seen one at some point, this kind of parallax with outdoor or whatever. I think that was the first one, actually the first one I could find. But I could also find all of this. At some point, you must wonder how many of those people are actually working for outdoor companies. But it's normal that you're being influenced, but at some point, it's getting ridiculous. Everyone is kind of evening the ground and being influenced by one another, and you're just going in a circle. And we love Dribbble. It's doing a lot for the design community, but it can also do a lot of bad if you're not aware of what you're doing and you try to just replicate something which has been cool and I don't know, given by someone else. So what now? We went from super creative to trying to do kind of the same stuff because website became more of a commodity. You have a lot of tools, everyone feel that they can build anything. So how do you stand from that? There's this idea that we like to use. Actually, originally we called this money shot. It was a name from the cinema from back in the days. Sadly, when I looked it up, I noticed that the porn industry took it back. So it just became the money idea. But we noticed that most of our projects which made any sense, which had any success, were easy to summarize in an idea. Something pretty simple, something which is going to just tell you what it is all about, and which is going to maybe create this emotional connection. People are going to remember this website as being the one with the gorilla underwater, the one with the bubble, the one with something else. And this is something that we try to use in our project, what is the core concept, what is the idea which is strong enough that it's going to convey something pretty simple to users, just above UI and considerations in UX and data and users and everything. It's a bit to us, an episode of Friends. For those who remember, the titles of the episodes were always the one with, and it was the one with Rachel doing this and the one with that. So we did the same exercise. Let's start with the one with the animated 3D dog looking a bit like a wolf, because we got it a lot. So speaking about our website here, first thing we wanted to come back on is the need for personality. We feel like when you start something, when you start a project, a website, whatever, you need to create something personal, something unique. And there's a lot of means to do that. Of course, you're not going to be able to use all of them. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. But we have a lot of tools to get there, between the copywriting, the tone of voice, between the content, between the illustration you can use, the animation. There's a lot of stuff that you can use, providing you have the right strategy to attack the problem. And so this is something we try to apply to our own brand, when we decided to rebrand. I think we started 2 years ago. It was quite a while. Finding like how to revamp our logo, how to find new fonts, how to just do something a bit different, which of course is complicated because you're not going to reinvent new colors. You know, like at some point you're going to end up on something which has been made. But we had this opportunity to maybe tell a different story, and it all started like by sketching this idea that maybe we should use a dog as a center. Actually, funnily enough, we were fed up with people making jokes of dogs because it's called Dog Studio, and like trying all kind of how is it called again? I don't find it anyway. Jokes around it, and but funnily enough, there was something to do with this. And so we went forward and tried to create something unique by maybe taking back some ideas from still nature, a bit of dramatic lighting from Rembrandt, and see what we can do with new technologies. So we started working with a 3D modeler called Antoine, who's really talented, and did a lot of back and forth, like, hey, guy, how are you going to build this together? How do you see it? And this is our perspective, like, and it's true that if we just did like a dog, it would have been boring because like proportions were not right, the feeling was not right. So we cheated a bit on details. We ended up having this model in this kind of dramatic pose, and then move forward. Like, how can we make it more interesting, just more than 3D model? Maybe we can make transitions between one state to another. So we coded this prototype where you could drag matte cap on it, and it would enable you to make a transition from one matte cap to the other one. So no texturing, no hassle of having to re-export stuff. You have everything which is directly coded. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use. Moving forward, then it enabled us to create the layouts. This is the homepage. See how it could tell a story, how to make it consistent as well. So you had different pages, of course, and yeah, you don't hear it here. It is a sound on this slide, but we created a sound loop, which was both eerie and nature-inspired to create like this environment. We wanted it to be as immersive as possible, and then move forward to animation and make it feel complete, ending up with this result, where you could manipulate the dog. It was reacting to your mouse, changing colors for different case studies, and trying to have those painting-like or poster-like headers all around the website. And that's complicated because you also have to find this fine line between too much and not enough, while we know that there's a need for something pretty rich. So that's for one. Next one is the one with the interactive flying Visa card. There's this quote that I recently found when I was doing some research for this talk from, what's his name, Brent Dykes, who's working at Domo. Domo is one of these big data, huge company, publicly traded. And he said something really interesting is that people hear statistics, but they feel stories. And this is something we always relate to. Like, we speak about a lot of the need of data, user research, and everything. This is something we do. But at some point, this, and it's funny, we discussed this even yesterday evening, like there's this need for intuition. As a designer, you have intuition, you have experience. You have to use that as well. And you cannot just bluntly look at numbers because there's this bias which is created. And so we worked for a few months with this company called Rappi in the South America. They have this kind of a everything app. You can, order your food, order your taxi, or bus, whatever. So we're rebuilding entirely their digital ecosystem, which is like a big deal because they have literally millions of users. And one part of this was that they came to us saying, hey guys, we started with a new product, it's a Visa card, and we'd like to advertise it. We had a bad experience with our previous agency, and we would like to make some kind of a storytelling with it, so what can you suggest? And the idea was to take control, actually kind of the same way we did for our website, kind of take the control of the scroll to tell a story, because there was not that much content, so single page would have been perfect, and drew this plan on how this card would follow you in the scroll, and then tell the story and give you the different features, because at the end of the day, a Visa card is pretty boring. So this is kind of an advanced wireframe, one of the many steps, which eventually became full layout, explaining different steps, trying to convey the animation, where you're going to go and how you're going to do it. And the platform in itself, this is a screencast, this is why like the variation in a scroll. No hijack of scroll, because we know that it's awful and people are dying in front of their computers. But yeah, altogether, like the idea was to tell something different and not to relate too much on. 30% of people thought that you roll the dice as well. Sometimes you use what you have in your, in your hands, but you use your experience. Next one is what we call the one with the snowy iceberg for a festival. Some of you may or may not know, we started a festival a few years ago, actually 10 years, it will be a 10th anniversary in Belgium called the Kick. And we redo the branding from end to end every year, because we feel like it's an opportunity, we have a different theme, so it's something cool to do. And it's always an opportunity to work with something we call layering. We feel like it's part of this personality, it's part of making things unique. Where you're going, to show it, you're going to create those layers to give some depth to your design. So the festival is digital culture, so there's a lot of stuff, and so it's pretty broad. And between the conferences and the exhibits and everything which is going on in town, and so you need to have pretty broad themes as well. Every year there was a different theme, a new design, and we try something different. Except among the complicated years, there was last year, where the theme was so weird, and that we are not sure ourselves how to interpret it, what to do with it. So our idea was to maybe come back to the aesthetic of cartography, like maps. There's something which is pretty cool, is that if you use the graphical code of a map, people are going to think it's a map, even though this is a region which doesn't exist, or it's actually not a map. And this is something we worked on and tried different versions to get to the actual result, which is on the far right, starting with the idea of the paper. How can we take a sheet of paper, like just roll a ball with it, and this would become the start of our design. And why this? Because a lot of the theme was about sustainability and how climate was changing, how people were creating too much waste. But at the same time, we had to this macro slash micro level we wanted to play with. This, of course, translated into design for the web. And speaking of layering, this is where actually we could see it. You have illustrations on one side. You have the overlaps between the text and some of the imagery. The cartography of like the grid in the background. You'll find some fun variation to create some kind of level of detail, the circle composition. So all of this is working together. Plus, you can add here a video loop where you have this snow coming from the front, where it was important for us that it really comes really close, as if you had a camera from the top, and you could really see this depth. This is something which we feel is really important. And eventually ended up being the full website here, where everything comes together, plus a few animations on top. Now the last case related to that. It's about what we call the one with the mirror interactive LED dome. And to us, it's really personal because it's really about how craft and details matter. Like, this is the very basic. When you get a chance to explore beyond just the screen, beyond being behind a computer or an app, you have this chance to build a story which is bigger. And so it means that you have to plan every single detail of your story. So we were contacted by the New York Times to work with Verizon for joint projects about Verizon Innovative Learning Program, which is a program for underfunded schools in USA. So they're providing school material, they're providing teachings for the teachers to be able to explain whatever is going on and how it works. So it's a pretty cool initiative. And for a Times Talk event, which is an event where people debate about certain subjects, and this one was actually about those schools which didn't have the same chances as others, we were asked to create a dome which would be 6 meters wide, 2 meters high. And like the briefing was loosely, you know what, we need like a lot of LEDs to convey the fact that kids supported by the program have a lot of ideas. And we want it to be interactive, but I mean, this is the start. And that was really cool because New York Times was really a super cool client. Graham there really like gave us a lot of freedom and said like, look, let's discuss, let's see what we can do together. And so what we suggested to do is to push further and to create this dome. This is a 3D simulation with a mirror structured, mirror side. Outside, inside would be black acrylic, so it would be reflecting as well, and create this scenography around, so people would get in and really like enjoy a journey between sound design with 8 speakers around you, the screen at the end, like the LED animations telling you to just walk in and reacting to you through a infrared camera, and the screen where once you start manipulating, you will have some kind of different content. So we did some more simulation to make sure that we were aligned with the client. So this is just to make sure the colors were right and that was working the right way. And validate the dynamic as well of the inside. And then went back to the office, and it was interesting how collaboration worked. Like on the far left, you have the sound engineer who's creating some sound loops and trying to synchronize with some events. On the right, you have the front end who's coding the interface and trying to communicate with actually the guy in the middle taking the picture, who's working on the electronics and trying to make sure that the LEDs are actually keeping up with the front end and the sound as well. Everything goes in sync. So it was really challenging, but really interesting as well because you can really go into those fine details. This is the interface. You don't see much actually because of the light. But you had 3 different zones with statistics on the left. On the right, you have other kind of stats. On the bottom, you had a video, a set of videos. And even for the videos, what we did is that we took the soundtrack, we divided the layers, and each layer was remapped on a set of LEDs with a specific LED animation linked to it. So everything was reacting differently, and everything was, interactive at the same time controlled. And that was cool because we could really play the story from end to end. So this is during the prototyping phase, at the office. We're testing on the touchscreen. This is the interface we were using to code the thing. Okay. And at that moment, funnily enough, we had just 4 LEDs that we ordered because the rest would be delivered directly in New York, where we had to do most of the heavy lifting. So we had to fly back to New York for like 10 days of intense work, like from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. every night, trying to fine-tune, do some testing directly in there, getting people to experience it again and again and again, but also fully craft the dome. So we were working with a fabrication shop in New York, which did an amazing job. But so we had to do everything once there to actually unmount it fully and then reassemble it directly on location. So we spent like those 10 days like climbing on stuff and plugging some electronics and then remeasuring and measuring again and then redoing the journey and so on, to have something which is compelling and complete. Obviously did a lot of testing at weird hours.
Let's go back to that was really cool, but I think what you really want is it. Something's happening.
and another view from the inside before we covered everything, because what you see there is those are black acrylic where they just didn't take out the film. So it was pretty scary because we couldn't see the final results before being on location, because we don't want to damage the acrylic we already had. So everything was assembled, at the same time we couldn't do the final testing.
You could see a lot of that black.
And so we went back on location to rebuild, indeed, to clean the thing, because it's acrylic, so it's super electrostatic. It's taking all the dust around. So we clean it again and again and again until it was the time of the event. Inside, out, that was pretty challenging as well to keep on doing the same. And we tested to make sure that everything was working perfectly together. And as you can see, also, there was so much electronics going on, so many cables and everything. We had to actually hide it in one of those boxes. We also had to make sure that this is secure, so it doesn't, go up in flames. So we had to use a fan and everything. So a lot of work to control the whole environment to actually get it fully working and mapped on the different events. So I have a video, and I think I'm going to slowly wrap up after that. Showing everything of the
It was a really
process.
interesting brief from Verizon to capture people's imagination in a way that we could bring that sense of scale to the event, but also tell these individual stories. It dials all of the emotion and all of the impact of what those films represent.
Just like turning on a light bulb in your mind.
You want to make sure that every child has equal access to technology and education.
They say we're all created equal. Why aren't our schools?
You felt the bigness of the problem and you felt the bigness of the possibility.
The lights seem to mirror the amount of schools touched by Verizon.
Nice to see someone taking a major step toward more equality in schools.
I was not expecting that at all.
The results are going to be incredible.
The goal for Verizon is to help kids in the best possible way. This is just one piece of the puzzle.
To wrap up, two last things. We've been over this in the past for another talk, actually. We know that positive emotions are proven to influence memory creation. It's like complicated in the brain. You have different parts working together. But this is something which is working pretty well. But also, we know that the real challenge is in our actual abilities to mix this process with using the right data and the right amount of research. So basically pleasing both sides of the brain. That's pretty much it.